Howdy folks, today we're looking at a pen I never thought I'd pick up. That would be the Kaweco Sport here. This one in particular I picked up from Goldspot Pens, and it's a 2024 limited edition color that is exclusive to Goldspot. The Kaweco Sport is a pocket pen, and really all that means is compared to your typical pen, it's quite a bit shorter. And this one in particular does not come with a clip automatically. You can purchase that separately, although I chose not to. Removing the cap will show you how small this pen really is. Without posting it, you could write a quick note, but it probably wouldn't be comfortable to write anything much longer than that. So as with most pocket pens, it is designed to be wrote with the cap posted, which makes the pen a reasonable length. Much more similar to what you'd expect with a normal fountain pen. So in the case of the Kaweco Sport, it'll come with a cartridge included, which will be down in the barrel of the pen. And if you wanted to use that, just like normal, you would push it into the back of the section here until you heard it snap and give it time to saturate the feed. A couple minutes or so is usually enough. Personally, I'm going to eyedropper fill this, which means we're going to fill the barrel of the pen up with ink, and we'll just want to stop just shy of the threads here to make sure there's room for the section to screw down. Typically, you'd want to use some silicone grease on the threads here, and that's just to help prevent any leaking, but I don't actually have any on hand, so we're just going to go without. So I'll be filling this pen up with another exclusive product. This is actually from Goulet Pens, but it's an exclusive Noodler's ink color called Purple Heart. And it's just a nice purple ink that I felt would be a good match for this pen. So I've got a huge bag of these I picked up off Amazon a while ago. Just makes it nice and easy to fill things up sometimes. So I'll put that down in ink. Get a good squeeze off that. That way we can fill this up without making any sort of a mess. And so one of those got us just shy of the threads. I could probably get a little bit more in there if I wanted to, but that'll be more than enough ink, as it was about 2.5 mils in there. Let's seal this up so I don't make a huge mess. And since we did not fill this up using a converter, which would pull ink through the feed, we'll have to give this some time to saturate, and then we'll be able to do a writing test of this pen. While we wait on this to saturate, I can talk about why I personally probably wouldn't have picked one of these up other than this specific color. And it comes down to, especially with the AL Sport, which is the anodized aluminum version of this, it looks a bit more mechanical than I would expect a pen to look. Reminds me of something I'd pick up out of my automotive toolbox rather than a fountain pen. But as many in the know would know, the Kaweco Sport actually comes rather highly recommended as a starter pen, as they're not too expensive, and they're quite small and come in a variety of colors, which is just nice for a pen starting out. So specifically this purple, as you might notice, I've got quite a few purple pens. Happens to be one of my favorite colors. And especially a transparent purple just ticks all the right boxes for me on a color I'd like for a fountain pen. So I'll do a quick writing sample with this pen here. So the nib on this feels well aligned. Has just enough feedback that I can tell I'm writing with it. It's not hot butter on glass or anything, but it's quite smooth. I don't feel any catches as I write in any direction. So if you happen to be looking for a relatively inexpensive pen, these come in the upper 20s, around $28 to $30, depending on exactly which one you pick. And then the AL, the anodized aluminum options, do end up being a little bit more if you wanted one that could take a little bit more of a beating than the plastic options. I do think it'd make a great option for you, as it's quite small, fits in the pocket, and at least with this one in particular, it writes quite well. It can hold a whole whack ton of ink if you're willing to fill up the barrel. Probably should get that silicone grease if you don't want it to potentially leak, but I've done that with a number of pens without it, and I'm usually fine, so I'm willing to risk it. I don't actually carry them in my pocket too often. So for me, while the initial appearance, especially of the AL Sports, was a little off-putting for me, once I found one that was in a color combination I actually liked, it was definitely enough to tip the scales to where I picked one up and am quite happy with how it performs. So if you're interested, I've got a link to Goldspot Pens down in the description below. And as always, if you like the video, consider hitting subscribe.